Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party. It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast, with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And with me, of course, you got Jaden here, but also our special guest today from NWA Gold. I'm talking about Tim Wood, the man, the myth, the legend, my dear friend.
Oh.
And I would have to pause just to take a minute to say, Tim, I do appreciate your friendship throughout the last few years. I feel like there was a couple years ago when there was a lack of NWA fan-created content, and it was me and pretty much only me. And along the way, there's been a lot of guys coming out of the woodwork. Some guys have come and gone. Some guys are still here. Tim, you're one of my favorite ones that have come out of the woodwork, if you will. Talking about the history and the historic relevance of the championships from yesteryear, from the past, present, and the future of the NWA. Welcome to the show, Tim. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks very much. I echo that right back at you. Checks in the mail. You're one of the major reasons that this NWA Gold thing got to, a spot to be where it is now. So I'm definitely appreciative of that and you and your friendship as well.
And not that he's chopped liver, but we also have Jaden in the house. Jaden, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's about time we had Wood on the podcast.
Mr. Wrestling.
Yeah.
So Tim, the first question that's in the chat is Tim Wood related to Mr. Wrestling too?
He's not. That is a Tim Woods. I am the inferior Tim of the two when it comes to professional wrestling. Yes, I should have made a handle for myself around Mr. Wrestling, but just couldn't bring myself to do that.
You could have been Mr. Wrestlings.
Yeah, that might work. I think Steve Carino is wrestling 3, and maybe there's a 4 by now, so I don't know.
Hey, we have
one of the reasons.
Go ahead.
One of the reasons he was Tim Woods is because he was Mr. Wrestling 2. That's 2 Woods. That just makes you Mr. Wrestling 1, right?
I'm trying to remember who Mr. Wrestling 1 was now, but I'll take whatever number if I get to be associated with those guys. That's good enough for me.
I just want to point out that we have a rare appearance from Jeff Capo. So you're doing something right. You're already driving the audience to the show because we have a famed former NWA referee, Jeff Capo, in the house. So what's up, Jeff? Thanks for checking us out tonight. Now, Tim, one of the reasons why you're on tonight, because first of all, our pal DKM is helping to produce an event right down in Fort Worth, Texas. That's the Iconic Heroes of Wrestling Excellence. I'm sure we'll have some reports on the show later on the website and all that good stuff. And if you guys are in the Dallas area, you should have been to the show already. And if you're not, sucks for you. But Tim, you're also here because of that website, of that NWA Gold. Maybe some of our viewers aren't familiar with what you're doing there. So why don't you take a minute or two to talk about that? Tell us what NWA Gold is. Where did the brainchild come from? I know Drew Onyx kind of helped spur that on, and we consider Drew Onyx a friend on this show. Tell us about the show, or excuse me, not the show, the website.
Yeah, NWAGold.com. I have not updated it as religiously as I should have, but we are on all the socials, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook primarily. So about 2 years ago this month, actually, I was looking around. I had some downtime, and was looking for some of the stories behind some of the major titles. I love title belts. I'm a title belt hound, and you can find snippets and photos here and there around the internet. You can there's a great NWA title right now. You can find them in lots of different places, but I couldn't find one place where you could find the title history, photos of the belt, comments and from some of the promoters or the wrestlers, the talent, the staff, the fans, the insiders. There wasn't one place that was just making content and articles around each of the titles. And like I say, I had some downtime, so I got the admittedly insane idea to start cataloging every title that the NWA has ever recognized. I get asked a lot, how many of those titles, how many titles are there? And that is a very debatable answer.
That's a loaded question.
It is. It's really, even better than I why that's so loaded. But depending how you look at it, there's somewhere between 450 and maybe close to 1,000. My best guess would be around 600.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've done about, I say we, I don't know why I say we, it's me. There isn't anybody else. But I've done about 75 of them. They're all listed on the pinned, post on the Facebook page with the links to them inside there. Thanks, Terry. Terry's just being nice in the chat there. He's a longtime friend on here as well. But yeah, I basically what I tried to do is reach out to the promoters and the talent, just using social media, and saying, hey, what can you tell me? Do you have any photos that you haven't seen online? Do you have any stories you can share? And then I put together an article. Usually takes me a couple of weeks, but I have taken a few months off recently, so I owe some people some work. And people have been very kind in their responses of, with photos and stories and information and phone calls and emails. The first person, as you mentioned, who was the owner of that title you just held up, the NWA British Commonwealth Championship, who reached out to me was Drew Onyx, former champion and North American champion as well in the NWA. I live in the Toronto area in Canada, and Drew's down over in Montreal, and we got together and did several of the titles, and that was his support was a big nudge for me and kind of kicked us along to the next level. And then I met this ham sandwich named J Cal, who said, hey, I really want to partner up and put some of your stuff on my site. And this platform, the Alliance Wrestling platform, has been a real boon to the NWA Gold experiment. So we've done about 75 of them in one form or another by now. I probably will never make it all the way to the end. It seems unlikely, but it's fun to do and keep rolling along and meeting, new people and finding interesting stories every single day.
One of the things that I take gratification in is that the NWA has this rich history, and there's so much tradition involved with it. And I mean, we talk about how that was founded back in 1948, and so much has happened between 1948 and 2022. And there's a lot of people out there who talk about wrestling. There's a lot of people who are documenting the history of pro wrestling. But when you look at the NWA, especially in the modern time, there's not a lot of people who are documenting this rich history. And that's where I kind of get my gratification and my pat on the back is I know that what I'm doing today, chronicling the modern National Wrestling Alliance, and I've been doing so for such a long time, that I'm helping to preserve the history of this brand. And I've been doing it for such a long time that, I've covered the dark days of the NWA. I covered some of the more prominent times of the NWA. And in what you're doing is basically the same exact thing. You're talking about championship titles. Like I saw you post one last year, and it I can't remember which one it was. I think it was like NWA Action or something like that. And I don't even remember that promotion, but I remember seeing that belt before. And I was just like, wow. I mean, it's such a cool thing to do that, long after I'm gone, long after you're gone, and hopefully, the internet database holds up and the archives are still there, people can come back and see the work that you did to help document this history. And I think that's very, very cool. And that's one of the things that I like about it. And I'm sure that you find some joy in that as well.
I do. And I say this very gently. Even the NWA isn't seemingly documenting the history very well.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at, and I don't know how you guys feel about it but from my standpoint, if you're looking at the NWA World Junior title right now, they're recognizing a lineage that comes from Wikipedia. You can't trust Wikipedia people. They are not your friends, and they don't often know what's what. You got to go to, well, for me, it's wrestlingtitles.com. It's the great Hisa.
Oh yeah, he's a friend of our show. He comes
fantastic.
On. Yeah, he'll pop in on the chat every once in a while. I've known him for a long time. I've helped contribute to his site, and of course, he's definitely helps contribute to the Alliance. So it's been very mutually beneficial. But yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy I would trust over Cage Match or Wikipedia or any of those other, quote unquote sources.
He shows his work. You can look at the articles that he's gone back to the 40s, the 50s, even before sometimes, and said, "Hey, this is where this starts." Or if the company is saying this is your champion at this point, that's not the case. So I can't do what I do without his stuff, and he's the reason that I document everything that I write down as well at the end of my articles. I'm not just shooting from the hip. I want to link to my own sources. So, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Hopefully there's more people who are going to pick up the torch like you, Jay, and continue to bring that history forward.
Well, ideally, we're setting down the foundation for people, down the road who want to do similar things. That's one of the reasons why I'm so welcoming to the community, because for a while there, and Jaden could attest to this, we were the only ones talking about the NWA. And I mean, when I say we were the only ones, I mean, PW Insider wasn't talking about the title switch between Adam Pearce and Blue Demon Jr. You weren't seeing, the NWA being recognized when Mike Rapata lost the title to Sabu. It wasn't making the breaking news, So it's, when Billy Corgan mentions that he is the steward for this brand, I feel in some ways you are the steward for this brand, and I'm the steward for this brand, because we're chronicling the history that made that brand worthy of being purchased, making it valuable to a rock star who said, "Hey, this thing has filled with tradition and history. this is what did he call it? He had a nice name for it, a legacy brand.
Right.
Well, that legacy means absolutely nothing if it's not documented. It almost kills me when they start talking about the title and they'll say Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race, and then skip over the entire 30 plus years before Nick Aldis became world champion.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, you didn't mention AJ Styles. You didn't mention Raven. You didn't mention Steve Corino or Adam Pearce or Blue Demon Jr. or Rob Conway. There's so many guys in there that did so much to carry this brand and you completely ignore. Oh man, that gets my goat.
Yep, same here. It's like, have you guys seen Adam Pearce? Do you remember Adam Pearce? Like, you know, what, 5-time world champion? The guy was phenomenal. He's still phenomenal on TV.
I like to consider myself the Adam Pearce apologist. So I'm always out there making sure that his name is synonymous with what the NWA was and is. And when someone says Nick Aldis is the world's greatest champion, he's good. And I'll be the first one to admit, I think he's a 5-tool athlete. I think he's a phenomenal guy in the ring. But remember, what he did in the ring was based on the backs of Billy Corgan paying him. You know, you were being subsidized by a rock star. When Adam Pearce was world champion, let's face it, the NWA wasn't backed by a millionaire. It wasn't even backed by a thousandaire. A lot of those guys were, I think Jaden could attest this. A lot of those guys were more or less income tax refund wrestling promotions. Mm-hmm. And so for Pearce to go from California to Texas, to West Virginia, to Canada, to Mexico, to the United Kingdom, to Australia, all without the backing of somebody like Billy Corgan. I think that speaks volumes about his work ethic and his ability to hustle.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was great.
Jaden, say something nice about Adam Pearce.
Something nice about Adam Pearce. No, actually, though, Adam Pearce was great, an absolutely great champion. Carried that torch that lit the NWA brand. And I think, again, you are right. He does not get the desserts that he deserves. He was an excellent champion, wrestled against people like Damian Wayne. There's a good example right there. Wrestled against Bryan Danielson. Wrestled against some of the best talent in the world. Wrestled in multiple countries. Who?
Charlie Haas.
Charlie Haas, yeah. He didn't even know the NWA existed.
Adam Pearce brought the NWA to Charlie Haas.
Yes. So there was a plethora of talent that he was wrestling against, some big-name talent, and defended that NWA championship with distinction and honor and put a lot of pride into what he was doing. So the fact that they are not acknowledging Adam Pearce, especially now that he's getting more recognition than he's ever gotten, just, you know, carrying a clipboard and looking good in a suit. But still, they should recognize him because people know more of him now than even then. And that will add further to what they're trying to accomplish, I believe.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity.
Well, and I mean, I kind of get it, though, too, because the fact that he is under contract with the WWE. But if tomorrow the world stopped and Adam Pearce was no longer under contract with the WWE, I think it would be a fool's game not to try to at least bring him in to help add to some of the legitimacy of the NWA. And besides a guy like that, I mean, he's such a brilliant mind for the business. And, you know, this isn't the Adam Pearce show by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, a lot of Ring of Honor's more interesting storylines from the early years came with Adam Pearce and is part of creative for Ring of Honor. And he worked very diligently behind the scenes of Ring of Honor. A lot of people aren't even aware of that. Mm-hmm. He meant a lot to the Southern California independent scene by helping book a couple of different territories. I say territories, I just mean promotions. But the fact that he did so much for such a short amount of time, I mean, we're talking from 2000 to basically about 2013, 2014. He meant so much to the NWA. He meant so much to the Southern California independent wrestling scene. It's kind of hard to think about where the NWA would have been without somebody like him. But that's all. We don't need to. This isn't a funeral show. He's still alive and kicking. We don't need to eulogize him. He's a great dude and somebody who has meant a lot to not just the NWA, but also this podcast. I mean, he's one of the first big names that actually came on and helped legitimize this podcast. So, and Dave Scooby says Pierce versus Cabana 7 Levels of Hate is a must see. If you only know of Adam Pierce from WWE and Cabana as a comedy wrestler, you're missing on great matches, great storytelling, and the documentary is pretty cool. And I was in it for 5 seconds.
That's right. You know, the year that was done, the 7 Levels of Hate, it became PWI's third runner-up for Feud of the Year. And at that time, when no one was paying any attention, that's how good that was.
It was not only the third runner-up, but it was also like a story that, honestly, that was a blueprint. And it surprises me that nobody has followed through with that blueprint since, because, you know, in independent wrestling, it's very much a do-it-yourself type business, right? You know, you could be the biggest name in pro wrestling, and you can get over in one area, and you can get over in this area. But I think the best way to tell a story is in that same fashion, where you have an opponent and it doesn't stick to just one wrestling promotion, but it spills out everywhere. So you can go to, let's say you go to New Jersey and you go to Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and you could tell that story there. Or you can go to California, you can go to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and tell that story there. Or you can go to Texas or Toronto and still tell that story and still have it be meaningful. That's what they did. And nobody on the independents is doing that right now. Nobody.
Right.
Jaden, it sounded like you were about to say something. Did I cut you off, brother?
You probably did, but it was probably just something smart ass and really, really funny. So you all lose out on that.
We all lose. Okay, so with that being said, you know, we were talking a little bit offline before the show started, Tim and I, and we were talking about the NWA. Now, Tim, I kind of feel like you and I have very similar thoughts on the trajectory of the NWA, plus like where it was to where it is now. Tell us just on the surface, how do you feel about today's NWA, and what do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
Wow, big question.
I've tried to oversimplify it. It's a very complicated question.
Yeah. I started watching the NWA again. You know, it was an incredibly long time from the time the NWA left Maple Leaf Gardens and WWF took over. This Toronto area is traditionally a WWF town. But, you know, once Power made its return, and actually what you're going to roll your eyes, Jay, but what made me come back to the NWA was a friend of mine said, do you know the Rock and Roll Express just won the NWA World Tag Team? I was like, what? How's that a thing?
It's a good thing Kevin's gone.
Yeah. But I really got into it right up until the Crockett Cup that didn't happen with Aldous and Skrull.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was really interested. And then I think we all sort of felt that it stumbled, it dropped off, and it's been a process. And I kind of feel like now we're just getting back to that level of interest and excitement that we haven't seen since then. And again, it's not critical on my part. I can't imagine what goes into all of the troubles of trying to run a company, a professional wrestling company. I don't know. I can only guess that it's incredibly difficult. And it seems like now we're getting back to where we want it to be. You know, NWA USA was, I think, has really added to that excitement as well. Power's gotten better. You know, there's the talent has changed. And there's some really interesting names and faces that have come in recently. The Crockett Cup was a great example. You know, how amazing is it that you're looking at Dem Boys doing color commentary on the weekend? Like that's who would have thought of that 6 months ago? You know, things can change on a dime. And, you know, you're looking at Matt Cardona, whether you like Matt or not. He is a mover and a shaker in the social media world, and it's I don't know, it draws and it's exciting and I'm into it. So I like where we are. I think we got a ways to go. I say like I'm part of the company or something, but
No, but you're a collective, right? Because there is, unlike any other wrestling promotion, and I know there's a lot of tribalism, the people who talk about the WWE is the greatest thing. There's people that talk about AEW is the greatest things. But like, let's look at this. The NWA is not the WWE. The NWA is not AEW. Sometimes I'm not even sure if the NWA is on the same level as Major League Wrestling or Ring of Honor or even the United Wrestling Network's Championship Wrestling. It's very much something into itself. And its exposure is through YouTube and through Fight TV. They don't have like a traditional TV model where fans could just discover them by accident by staying up too late on a Saturday night. It's very niche. And if you don't know about the history of the NWA, or at least what the significance of the NWA is, you might not even care to tune in to watch this show. So I've always felt like this galvanized fan base that we call the hashtag NWA fam. I believe that's a real genuine thing because look, go ask the WWE fan today who is the first world champion of the WWE. I'm sure you'll get like Hulk Hogan, Iron Sheik, Bob Backlund. I think the NWA, the fans are different. And I feel like it's not tribalism as much as it's just a galvanization. Just we're attached to the NWA because it's got that historic significance. And I really feel like it's connected that way. So I feel like when you say, well, we're finally getting to where we need to be, I agree, man. I've been watching this show since day one, and I very much feel like I'm a part of the product, even though I've only been in the house like 2 or 3 times or on a pay-per-view once or twice. I very much feel like I'm part of it. And I think that's how most of the NWA fans feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't honestly know if it wasn't a niche, how interesting it would be, if that's makes true. Any sense, right?
No, it makes total sense. If it didn't have that historic background. Let's say if Billy Corgan, this wasn't the NWA, this was Billy Corgan's Championship Wrestling, BCCW.
Right.
Would you care? Smashing Pumpkins Pro Wrestling? No. I mean, I know there are some people who just love Billy Corgan and will go do and support everything that he's involved with. I've met some of them, and there's nothing wrong with that per se. And if you enjoy what he's producing, whether it be music or wrestling or whatever, that's great.
Yep.
But if this wasn't the NWA, I wouldn't be watching it.
Right.
I see my buddy Rick Del Santos in the house. What's up, Rick? I like it when Rick's here. He's my pal. Speaking of NWA podcasts, and I'm going to have Rick on here at some point. He's starting to do a podcast on his PWZ podcast. They do special episodes of the NWA. They've just did NWA Spotlight number 2. I haven't had a chance to listen. I know it was today. I think it came out. So for you guys who are like-minded, if you like what we do here, and hopefully you're enjoying what Tim does at NWA Gold, make sure you check out what Rick is doing at Pro Wrestling Zone Podcast. You can just find him PWZ Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. That was a free plug for my pal. Okay, so sorry, I kind of got derailed there.
I actually have an answer to one of your questions, though, Jay.
Let's hear it.
The first WWE champion was Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he held that title and the NWA World title at the same time. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, but when they changed the name, when they got the F out, he was the champion at the time.
Oh, see, you're clever, aren't you? That's good. I'll give you credit for tip my hat on that one too. So then getting back to the topic, so you see the NWA as in a more positive light today than you did maybe 2 months ago, Tim?
I do. There was a period of time, just being as honest as I can be, where I started drifting away and I wasn't watching week to week anymore. And, I got the All Access. So what else am I going to, do? That's an amazing deal. But I wasn't watching it religiously. It as I say, I took a few months off recently, and part of that was driven just by a lack of interest. Not a complete lack of interest. You pay attention peripherally, but a declining lack of interest in some of the product, but it has returned, and I think that there's some extra effort and some really nice work being put into it right now, and I'm really hopeful for the immediate future.
Yeah, and I think that's a real positive way to look at it. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it as well. Jaden, I know you're kind of been on again, off again too. How do you feel about the current direction of the NWA?
I'm a little less optimistic. I tried watching NWA USA, and there was one, maybe two good episodes, but after a while, I'm like, okay, this is just getting on my nerves. I really, honestly, stopped watching because of the Austin Idol commentary. It just put me off too much, and it was kind of dumb. But I want the NWA to succeed. I really, I always have a love for the NWA. I think it's definitely gone downhill between both Lagana being gone, even though he was far from perfect, and the pandemic, and too many people trying to do sports entertainment, not pro wrestling, and that's not what the NWA is. There's too much sports entertainment right now in it, too many three-way matches, too many soap opera bullshit, and I don't know. I just wish it was a go back to wrestling. But then there's always bright spots, like Aldous was a bright spot. Even though his championship reign was booked incredibly bad, Murdoch was a bright spot. The Pope's a bright spot, and there's, I like the fact that Homicide's the junior heavyweight title or champion. He's not the belt. People don't wear Homicide around his waist, but he's the champion. I like that. I wish they didn't have 740 champions, considering then they have like 3 or 4 people actually signed on the roster.
Yeah,
but you know what? It's better. Again, I wish it was more. I wish it was pro wrestling. There is no pro wrestling on TV right now. Even if you follow like on the internet and you count that as TV, even Major League Wrestling, which I was starting to get really into, is back to being soap opera bullshit and Lucha Underground bullshit. But I just wish there was some pro wrestling TV for the people that are actually pro wrestling fans. There might be enough of us to actually draw a crowd. Who knows?
Well, I feel I agree with you on some sides and I disagree on others. I do genuinely think the NWA is trying to showcase wrestling, but I also agree with you that some of the carny stuff that Billy tries to execute doesn't come off. And there's a problem when you have one guy who's a booker, who's also the owner and essentially the promoter. I know for a fact in the past they had filters. There was a filter on the things that Billy wanted to do. So he had an idea and then it was ran through by a bunch of people. I don't know if that's how it is today. But I mean, there's some things that I genuinely feel like this is a callback to good wrestling. This is a callback. The whole championship series thing is essentially just a reason to have a Money in the Bank style reward, which I wasn't really a big fan of until I saw Jack Stain cash his in at the Crockett Cup, because it was good storytelling. It was like, okay, here's a guy who has been in a blood feud with his former tag team partner. Tag team partner came up on gold. Now Jax has got this opportunity to cash in anytime he wants. So he wrestles the match. He's focusing on the leg. He's looking pretty good. And then, oh man, he just accidentally lost. It just slipped out of his hands by mistake. And if he could have just had that one move back, he could have won the match. And what does he do? Well, he beats the living crap out of the champion. And then he worked over the leg even more. And then he cashes in, and it's one clothesline to a pin. And it was, to me, a thing of beauty. And I thought that was probably some of the best storytelling the NWA has done. I think with the Cardonas and the Aldies, I don't know how to say it. I feel like you're getting some compelling storyline there. And I think we're going to start seeing some more development with the characters, something that we haven't really seen a lot lately. So I'm excited for that.
I believe the term you were searching for was all die.
All die.
That's the plural. Yeah. All die.
Love it. Okay, so also want to thank everyone for being a part of the show, checking us out tonight. We're here every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. We're also Tuesdays, we do the pre-show. That's just me And I talk for a long time. So if you like my voice, make sure you listen to that. Dave Scooby says they're starting to do some long-term storylines. It just takes time to tell stories. And with only 1.5 hours a week of wrestling, he's got a point, but also they have the means to change that, though. And not everyone needs to be involved in a storyline, but the storylines that you're showing need to be enjoyable for everyone. Does that make sense?
I'm going to put a counterpoint with Dave Scooby said.
Sure.
Back in the 80s, and I know there was a lot less television things to compete, so it was easier to probably find the program, but there were parts of the country that only got NWA Worldwide or NWA Pro, and if you didn't have cable, you didn't see any of the Jim Crockett promotions, and they did really well. There were parts of Texas that didn't stay up till 12 o'clock at night to watch more than 1 hour of world class in Texas. And if I'm not mistaken, Kansas City in its peak never even had television.
Really?
It wasn't until I know, maybe I'm thinking of St. Louis. St. Louis didn't have television. Kansas City did. So, but St. Louis put on the biggest events they had at the time.
But
Kansas City was the.
What about wrestling at the Chase, though? Wasn't that televised?
Or maybe I'm thinking the other way around. Maybe it is the other way around. But I figure there was a time period where some of the best promotions didn't have much television. The WWF only had television in a Spanish, on a Spanish station at the time because of New York's rules and stuff like that. So they were only able to get TV on a Spanish station, and they still drew huge at the Madison Square Garden in New York.
When you said that, it makes me think about the old days when we had the original NWA Hollywood, the LaBelle promotion, which aired on the Spanish-speaking stations and on one of the independent channels. They had 2 nights of TV, and I don't even think they had like a Spanish dubbed commentary. I think it was just an English commentary on the Spanish-speaking station. So there's probably something to that.
I think there's something to less is more. To Jaden's point, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, it's the Marvel Universe movie problem. They come out with, I don't remember the first one, Captain America maybe, and then the Avengers. They were great. Now there's like 35 Marvel movies, and I don't care. There's so much, I just saturated. So I don't watch WWE or AEW, not because I have anything against them, but I don't have the time to sit through 7, 8, 9 hours of programming a week.
Right.
I like my hour and a half of NWA wrestling. I can wait until the following week.
And that's legit too. Like, Jaden, I don't know what your viewing habits are, but I pretty much watch the NWA. I watch United Wrestling Network's Championship Wrestling. And when I can, I'll watch, videos from some of my favorite independent promotions. Like locally, we have there's a promotion ran by B-Boy called Level Up. Where that's like an independent, they're training, but it's also kind of like they're young guys, but they're learning their ropes. And then, of course, our friends over at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, one of their bright stars, their champion, Ray Jazz, would be a perfect addition to the NWA Junior Heavyweight division. But I mean, I know he's made appearances in AEW and that sort of
WWE and Impact, and I think Ring of Honor too.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't know all that. And and I was really kind of excited by what was going to happen with what Ring of Honor is supposed to be. They're talking about it was going to be reimagined, and I was kind of excited to see what Sinclair was going to do with it. Sadly, that's not going to happen because Tony Khan purchased it. So I'm at least willing to check out what Ring of Honor will be, but I'm going to be honest, I won't be as committed to that, of course, as I am the NWA. So
if you asked my viewing habits with wrestling.
Yeah.
I watch, if I find out something's good, I'll search it on YouTube and I'll look for it. And I watch a lot of Memphis and Continental. And I've been recently picking up a little bit of Pacific Northwest and a bunch of stuff that doesn't exist anymore because it's the only wrestling I can find that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, let's dive into what the NWA is presenting today. well, not today, but on Saturdays and Tuesdays or Fridays, depending on if you have all access or not. This week's episode of NWA USA, this is the first episode of the new season. We get Homicide with Kyle Davis in the back, and he genuinely seems excited to be your new World Junior Heavyweight Champion. And that's something to keep in mind in this matchup is this was filmed probably, I want to say like maybe the Tuesday or Wednesday following Crockett Cup. So on the first episode of Power from Crockett Cup, he, being Homicide, defended against Austin Aries. So that was his first title defense. And he won the title on Sunday. He defends the title, he defends the title on, I think, Monday, chronologically. And then sometime that week has this match against Doug Williams. And that's now the second time he's defended the title in only having won the title just a few days earlier. And I know he has another defense scheduled this week. And I think that speaks a lot about who they picked for the World Junior Heavyweight Champion, a guy who's out there getting booked, defending the belt. And I think the important part is that he's taking that NWA title and he's trying to make it meaningful outside of the NWA as well as inside the NWA. So I think that's really important when you think about the fact that, he was in the ring with Austin Aries, Colby Carino, Darius Lockhart Sunday night. Then on Monday, he's wrestling against Austin Aries for the second time. And then on either Tuesday or Wednesday, he's facing Doug Williams, another really incredible athlete. So it just kind of shows you that this man has a great work ethic, and he's all about showcasing this championship.
He also has a affiliation with a promotion in Brooklyn, New York, and they have talked about bringing the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion back to Brooklyn. That's something really good. Of course, like Mr. Woods has said, and I'd like to know his opinion on it, I don't think the NWA will acknowledge that.
You don't think
I don't think the NWA acknowledged the fact that he is wrestling in New York and Brooklyn and possibly defending that championship there. And I think that's a problem with the NWA. And I wanted to know what Mr. Wood thought about that.
Well, I mean, it's news to me, but I think it can only benefit to recognize that that's happening or going to be a reality. Homicide is one of those rare kind of guys where everyone likes him just because he's a solid, as Jay says, he's out there, he's wrestling, he's pounding, the mat every single day. It seems like when you look at him from 30,000 feet, it's like, how old is this guy, and can he cut a promo? And absolutely no one cares because because that's who we all love what he's doing and what he represents. So I don't really know, Gene. To be honest, I guess I'm not educated enough on the matter to give too much an opinion, other than to say I would like to see them support that for sure.
I agree. I wish they would support it. They didn't do it a lot in the NWA champion. If it didn't have a 10 pounds of gold associated with it, they either didn't acknowledge it or put it like in a very brief snippet about it. I remember when Lance Hawaii, a third generation wrestler, a son of a wrestler who once wrestled Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, a wrestler who was part of the 9-way elimination at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators to crown the new NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And they gave him about 7 seconds of airtime that he was taking on all this. And there's a lot of wrestlers who didn't even get that.
Well, I mean, when you go back to the 10 pounds of gold, you think about Lance Hoyt, who had a rich history with the NWA himself. He was a 2-time NWA tag team champion, both with Kid Cash in the Impact era. And then, of course, Harry Smith in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And when he had an opportunity to wrestle for the 10 pounds of gold, you didn't get anything. You didn't even get like a snippet, a match or anything. And I always felt like that was a huge whiff for the NWA, because here's a guy who was huge in Japan, who, I mean, you see now he's in AEW, and obviously he's not like the world champion, but hell, they had him come in to wrestle for the Intercontinental New Japan title, the IWGP Intercontinental title. Was it the U.S. title? Now I'm confused.
I think it was the U.S.
Yeah, you're right, U.S. But I mean, still, that shows that they have some sort of respect for him. And, he's still part of that program. He's wrestled, for the AEW World Championship. And, like, the NWA at the time didn't even give him a whiff of camera time. Like, he didn't get anything. So it's one of those things. But to your point, Jaden, I really feel like there's been a kind of change in the NWA's, at least from what I see on their social media. When Hex went to Germany, they were tweeting those. When we've got the NWA World Tag Team Champions this weekend, literally you're going to be wrestling all weekend long, defending the tag titles in AAA, defending the tag titles in some of the local Texas-based promotions like Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance. And I'm seeing the NWA tweet and retweet those more and more frequently. And I think you're going to see a lot more of when Homicide is defending. You're going to see more notifications of that. Of course, Camille, who's probably the biggest proponent of going outside of the NWA to defend the title, they're doing a great job of keeping up with what she's doing. So I wish it had more camera time, more TV time. But again, I also understand that they're just focusing on their product, as it were. So at least the social media is covering it.
May I ask a question?
You absolutely may.
I know Cardona is teaming up with his wife to take on the Aldai.
Yeah.
Is there any NWA World Heavyweight Championship defenses during this weekend for any of the promotions in the area?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that he's out there. I know that Cardona is wrestling a bunch this weekend. As far as I've seen, none of them are for the World's Heavyweight Championship.
I think that's a lost opportunity too. The NWA is not big enough. Like the AEW can claim that they don't need the WrestleMania spillover, if there is any this year, to draw a crowd. But the NWA needs that. They should have put their champion on every night of the week: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and whatever they can do, put something on there to get as much out there as possible, get the name out there.
I like what Dave Scooby just suggested. He said anytime an NWA title is defended outside the NWA, having some footage featured on POWERRR or USA would be nice. I mean, with USA, the fact that it's a 30-minute show, a 2 or 3 minute clip just saying, hey, Team Hex defended the titles against this team in this place. Boom. You just ate up like 5 minutes of television. And you know what I mean? It stretches out the product even further, which I know sounds bad, but let's be honest, when you're taping once a quarter, you need to do stuff like that. And I think that would make a heck of a lot of sense. So Dave Scooby, great suggestion. I agree with you as well.
I think to that point as well that, the alliance is not only formed on a territorial, foundation. I realize we all know it's one company now, but it also survived because of independent promotions. It was just even more so than really in 1948, perhaps. It's a collection during the Adam Pearce days of independent, capital I, independent promotions. And I think that the NWA can look back at that and trust that as a model that they can use. I wanted to mention too, the social media, whether it's a change in the direction that is, we're now seeing a bit more, like you mentioned, the Hex and over in Germany, whether or not that's a change in direction that's doing that, or that there's a better social media manager than there was a year ago there. The NWA really stepped it up in the past 6 months or so. It's night and day other than what it used to be. Yeah, I think that helps them a lot. Yeah.
I couldn't disagree with, I couldn't agree with you more. I can't disagree with you at all. I really do feel like they are, whoever's in charge of the socials on the NWA are really doing something to make it seem more like they care, that they are invested in these NWA talents. But let's get back to the show. This match was definitely a gem. I really think people might have forgotten just how good Doug Williams is in the ring. We saw a lot of him in the tag team action with Harry Smith and before that Aldis. But the guy can still go. And I know he's not a young cat by any stretch of the imagination, but man, he looks good in that ring. And the match is pretty fluid. It goes back and forth. Homicide picks up the victory after a Koji cutter. It gets him a 2 count. Then he connects with what they're calling the Northeast Bomb for a 3 count. And another excellent victory for the notorious 187. Mr. Tim Wood, what did you think of this one?
I thought it should have been the main event. I think that when we talk about the main event, we'll probably see why. But this was a world title defense, and I think that the world junior title is worth and needs to be presented to be as worth as much as the 10 pounds of gold and the world tag team titles. Anyway, this was as classic to a face-on-face pro wrestling match as you're going to see in the recent past. So Williams is amazing. He's 49. I looked it up earlier today. He looks a bit older, but he's a little younger than me. And I really thought it was from the handshake at the start to the handshake at the end. It was a great match. No fuss, no muss.
It reminded me a lot of like those Ring of Honor matches that I used to watch, in the early infancy of YouTube, where it was a little bit more pixelated, but you can kind of make out what was going on. And you would see, wrestlers shaking hands, and it was very treated like a more authentic type of sport. Right. So that was a lot of fun. Jaden, did you happen to catch this one?
I have not, but it doesn't surprise me that Doug Williams is still very good. One of the benefits to wrestling a ground-based wrestling style is it puts a lot less wear and tear on your body. Maybe not so much the knees, but the absolute rest of the body, way less wear and tear on. And I think that's why Doug Williams is still able to be a high-level performer.
Yeah, I got to meet Doug Williams on Saturday after the first night of the Crockett Cup. And obviously I'm not anybody special, so he didn't really take a whole lot of time to talk with me, but very nice guy. He made a point to say, "Oh, I love this photo of me and Harry. You want to know why? Because I'm more jacked than Harry in this photo." So like he's got a real positive disposition about all of it. And again, the rumors are when he came to the NWA, the whole idea was that it was going to be a reconnection of the British invasion, and that was what they were going to roll with Crockett Cup, and those plans got changed later on. He didn't even know that Harry Smith was going to be his partner until after it was announced. And when you think about that and the chemistry that those guys showed during the Crockett Cup, it's really surprising that how good they were in that matchup. But then again, when it's Doug Williams, I guess maybe that's not surprising.
I like how you put it up there. Not buying him as a junior. I noticed in that match they introduced him at 224.5.
Yeah,
he just made it, guys.
You know what? They should have put him in a trash bag with the sweat dripping out, like high school wrestling. Because I had to do that a couple of times, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's not legal in amateur wrestling anymore, unfortunately. These kids nowadays actually don't get to suffer like we did.
Oh man! So I wrestled all 4 years, and my senior year, I had that luxury of being the worst guy on my team, and everybody on the team was much, much better than me. So guys were going to the what we call the state championships. We called it CIF and masters and state. And so everyone between 147 pounds and 179 was just so much better than me that the coach would slot me in and said, "Okay, Jay, I want you to weigh 160 pounds. And if you need to cut weight because we're going to slot you in at 150, then you're going to have to cut weight to get to 152. And if you're wrestling 179, you'll just weigh in with your clothes on." And I did that so often. It was a lot of fun. I loved wrestling. Okay, so let's go to the next match. Next up was something different. I did not know that Caprice Coleman would be a part of the NWA, and this promo was like money. We talk about how great that the Pope is on the mic. We talk about how great Nick Aldis is on the mic, and we have like maybe the next big thing on the microphone for the NWA because we got Caprice Coleman, who they just announced just a few days ago. He'll be joining Ian Riccoboni as part of the commentary for Ring of Honor Supercard down there in Dallas. But this promo was sick, man. Not sick, but slick. He was very smooth talking. And like I said, he might give the Pope a run for his money in the promos. Essentially, he said that he doesn't age and he has the body of a rookie and the mind of a seasoned veteran. And that could be a lethal combination in the NWA. Jane, you didn't watch USA at all, right?
No, but I actually remember sending you that promo when I saw it, and I was impressed with it. I sent it to you and DK,
That's right.
and I was impressed with it, and I was happy to see he's been a wrestler who's really worked his way from the small time circuit to get to what he hasn't worked really hard to do so. I was always a little upset more that Ring of Honor was using him as a commentator, even though he was a very good one. I would have liked to see him more in the ring, but now maybe we get the best of both worlds. Maybe he can do what he does for Ring of Honor and wrestle for NWA.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Tim, what did you think of the promo? What do you think of Caprice Coleman?
I got to tell you, I know him only as an announcer. I've never seen him in the ring.
You're in for a treat.
Yeah, but on the mic, fantastic, man. 10 out of 10.
Dave Scooby says, I love the 60-second promo. They need to do this for all the new talent in the NWA. You know, that's something that Dave and I have been discussing on this show for years. We haven't been doing it for years. Since we've been doing covering NWA Power, is that any of the new talent should definitely have that window of opportunity to introduce themselves. And I think this was the perfect format, very similar to what Dave Scooby described, a couple months ago when he brought it up for the first time. But yeah, I think this is, if they continue to do things like this, I think that's going to be beneficial for the talent and the fans watching it as well. Next up, we get Gustavo Aguilar, the Latin lover, taking on Kerry Morton. Now, I'll be honest, I was not the biggest Kerry Morton fan when he first debuted, but he's kind of like a fungus. He's growing on me. I can't really say anything negative about Kerry Morton, but Gustavo has all the makings for a Wrestle Crap Award nomination. I feel like these kind of gimmicks are exactly what Jaden was talking about earlier. Very cartoony, very sports entertainment, and more akin to what you'd see on the old WWF Saturday morning programs. And this is the NWA. I don't think it really fits. It's kind of hard for me to enjoy something like this. So, Aguilera was definitely there just to make Morton look good. He was an enhancement talent, and that's exactly what it was. Very much a one-sided match. Kerry gets the victory with a running knee. And is it just me, or is Kerry Morton kind of wrestled like a heel? I mean, Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, what I wrote down was he'd be better as a heel.
Yes. Okay.
As he's got swagger. He looks a bit like his dad, and it would be kind of, because his dad's involved in his character. So it could be kind of great if he went the other way and, sort of brought out that heel nature. My feelings on Kerry Morton are going exact opposite of yours. That's interesting, though. I liked him better when he came in. Okay. Now he's wearing on me. I don't really see the conditioning.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't understand what his style is. Is he a power wrestler now? Because, the vertical suplex that he held up there, the standing vertical for 30 seconds or so. Like, granted, Aguilar weighs $150, but
right.
But I don't really know that I get his style right now.
Well,
but anyway,
yeah. I think what you said kind of hit the nail on the head. He's got this swagger. He's got very much like my daddy was a champion swagger, and I'm gonna do whatever I want because I'm a Morton, which I think lays right into a heel persona. And I don't know, maybe putting him and Colby as a tag team might be a lot of fun too. With just two young up and comers who are filled with piss and vinegar because their daddy did it. And now that they have an opportunity to do it too. But you're right about Kerry Morton. I kept thinking, like, on this show, we pointed out when Marche Rocket didn't look his best. On this show, we pointed out when Kratos did not look his best. We pointed out that Aaron Stevens didn't look his best. Kerry Morton, he's kind of like a skinny fat guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know he's not a fat kid. I know he's not a big guy, but tone that up, man. Get some crunches in, because you have an opportunity. You're on TV. You have to look like you're a TV wrestler. Right. If you look like the guy at the beach that I kick sand on, then that's how most people are going to treat you.
Nice to know that Jake Hal's a beach bully.
You know what I mean, Jaden.
Who are you kicking sand on at the beach? What's wrong with you?
Asshole. But what you get what I'm saying though. Like I want to see guys that look like Jax Dane. I want to see guys that look like Austin Aries or Rhett Titus. Rhett Titus is a small guy. He's very skinny, but he's not he's conditioned, he's fit, he's very muscular. You know, for being a smaller guy, he's still very muscular. You look at Kerry Morton, and you're like, you guys are probably weigh about the same weight, but you don't look clean like Red Titus. Not everyone has to look like Red Titus.
Nobody can look. Everybody could look right. Yeah, trying to think. There's not a lot of people could look like Red Titus.
Right.
He puts a lot of work in his body, and he's vegan. So can you imagine what happened if we and I quit the spare ribs and the steaks and the chickens and all the other delicious dead animals?
No. You're right, Terry. It is from the comic book, the Charles Atlas weightlifting program. In just 60 days, you can beat up the beach bully.
See, thank you, Terry, and thank you, Tim, for pointing that out. I was playing a character. Thank you.
Yeah, in 60 days, we'll get that for Kerry Morton. He can beat up Jay.
He won't need 60 days. In the back, we have May Valentine with Jack Stane, and you know that's kind of one of the hallmarks of NWA heels. I feel like this is something that they're told to say, that if something doesn't make sense, just blame it on the Corgan conspiracy. And this is one of those things where I absolutely agree with Jack Stane. Of course, Jack Stane is a friend of the show, so I must say that I am biased towards Jack Stane. He's one of my favorite wrestlers, but he's also an awesome human being, so I love that guy. You'll very rarely hear me say anything bad about him, but he has a perfectly legitimate point. Who is Jay Bradley defeated to get a shot at the national title? Who is Marshe Rockett defeated to get a shot at the national title? Until recently, Jay Bradley's been a tag team wrestler as the Fixers, and we felt like that's where Marshe Rockett's character was going as well. Don't know why either one of these two guys are in a match to declare a number one contender for the national championship. With that being said, the formula that they're kind of using here was very similar to how they were getting Pope over as the television champion. You have two guys wrestle for a spot. The winner of that match will get to challenge the champion. And we also know that USA is also the home of the national title. So we're hopefully seeing a lot more Jack Stane on YouTube in the coming weeks. What did you feel about this promo, Tim? And I mean, how did you agree or disagree that this felt like a conspiracy?
I mean, I love it when a heel especially makes a point that is absolutely correct. What are these two guys doing here? I thought, yeah, he's absolutely right. Why is, I have nothing but love for Marshe Rockett and the Fixers. Yeah, but why are they here? This is the national champion. It's the number 2 title. These guys should be maybe wrestling for a TV title shot. I think that's how it should be presented. I like the idea that, if it's a conspiracy, fine, but I think he just kind of threw that in as a side thing to keep the show going. It's a good interview.
Yeah,
I kind of feel differently on that. Again, I didn't watch it, but listening to you guys, so you're not putting on over these two guys. So all of a sudden now, when you have to wrestle, when you beat them, who did you beat? Nobody. And why is it got to be the Corgan conspiracy? Does Corgan need to have his name in every 5 seconds to make himself feel important?
As my 8-year-old daughter would say, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just not necessarily agreeing with you. My camera's working tonight, and I'd like it to stay working. Thank you very much. That's a running gag on here, Tim, that every time my camera goes down, it's because Billy Corgan's cutting the cable on it.
I see.
So,
no, you make a good point, Jaden. But all opponents have to have value for the match, especially a title match, to have value. But I think that there has to be a greater amount of effort put into these two particular guys before coming into the radius of the number 2 title in the promotion.
That is probably true, but the champion shouldn't be saying it. Maybe we can, and honestly, that's just a fault of the promoters themselves.
Well, I see, and I hear what you're saying, Jaden, and I do agree with you because you're always supposed to put over the competition. But in essence, I feel like, there are plenty of singles or wrestlers in this promotion that would have made sense. Of course, Anthony Mayweather's hurt. He lost the title, but at some point he should get a rematch. Adonis even mentioned that later in the show that he might want a title shot at the champion. And then you look at the roster and you look at some of the guys who are there, can we not make a case for maybe like Magic Jake. No, Tim says don't. He's on a bit of a winning streak. That's why his name popped into my head. But there's some guys on the roster who are singles wrestlers. They're not involved with tag teams. Let's say the Mims. Mims actually has a victory over Jack Staines. Wouldn't that have made a lot more sense if he was going to have an opportunity to challenge for the national title?
Yeah, I do think it would have made more sense. There's been more effort with Mims to elevate him. And I think that would have been a good fit now that you bring it up.
So that leads to the match where we get Marche Rocket with Black Cheese taking on Jay Bradley of the Fixers. Joe Galley is quick to point out before the match even begins that Jay Spade had traveling issues, and that's why he wasn't there to cash in his number one contendership to wrestle Homicide. But the thing about it is, I saw Jay Spade at the hotel Saturday night, so I'm wondering where he went in between all of that. And then the second part was Galley also points out that only managers will be allowed ringside per Medusa and Tim Storm. So, to keep all this shenanigans from the ringside happening. And Black Cheese is technically a licensed manager, the church's money. So we'll see how long this actually lasts in terms of storyline. But that's how it will be for now. The Fixers are over in Nashville, and that includes Jay Bradley, which I never thought I'd say Jay Bradley was over, but the dude is over. And this reminds me kind of, and I'm sure Jaden will get a kick out of this. It kind of reminds me of how the Atlanta fans were so absorbed with the question mark, or the Dawsons even. The gimmick gets over super hot in that local audience. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out on television over the next few weeks. And, when they start touring, which I believe is around the corner, they've already announced their next live event will be in April. It'll be interesting to see how that gets over. This match kind of goes back and forth with both Marche and Bradley being about the same size. Normally, when you watch Bradley in the ring, he's very much bigger and stronger than his competition. But a guy like Marche Rocket, who's kind of a hybrid athlete, looks to be about the same height as Bradley. Looks like he's probably as strong as Bradley. So, he doesn't have a huge advantage in this match. And the match itself was pretty good. G's blatantly the finish of the match comes when Bradley hits his finisher on Marche Rocket. Black G's blatantly right in front of the referee pulls Marche's leg on the rope. That's to break the count. The referee starts admonishing Black G's. Bradley gets in and is a little bit too aggressive, I guess, for referee Jared Fritz, who just throws the whole thing out and calls it a double disqualification. Felt it was a weird way to end the show, but it keeps the number one contender for the national title still open. Tim, what'd you think of this one?
So heel on heel. I'm trying to push the cat away from the screen just a second.
It's all right. We've had dogs, cats. It's okay if your cat wants to jump on too.
He looks very offended right now. I don't know if you can call Jay Bradley a heel. The Fixers are over, like you say. The fans dig him. Doesn't matter if they're what they are. Rocket as a heel, I don't know that I've ever entirely bought, but there's been a lot of effort to make him a singles star in the church's money and with Idol, Austin Idol, whatever, sports, whatever, Mania Entertainment, Being Limited, LLP. And I don't know why Bradley almost won this match. It didn't make a lot of sense to me when the Fixers gimmick are to, stand up behind, chicken shit heels like Colby Carino and make sure that they win. And when you're trying to push Rocket as a star, at the end of that match, Rocket's beat. He rolls out of the ring, and that's the end of it. I didn't think much of the match at all. Like I said earlier, I thought that Homicide's defense against Williams would have been a better way to end the show.
And Terry McDermott said the ref did the right thing. Jaden, how we explained it to you, do you feel like the referee did the right thing?
I guess. I mean, it just sounds like it was another poorly booked thing where instead of maybe just why does it need to be for the national title? If it's not even going to be, I mean, for a championship match, if it's not even going to be a decisive winner to have that happen, then that's just putting another stupid thing, a stipulation on something that didn't need it. If they were going to have the match, they should have just had the match straight up. And, these guys are both fighting to move up the ladder. Jay Bradley, right now, he's a tag team wrestler, but sometimes say maybe he needs to make some money as a singles wrestler too, because sometimes there's not always a tag team that needs to be fixed. Maybe a singles wrestler. So he wrestles singles times and then it's against somebody, and that's what the deal is. I don't know. It just sounds like overbooked bullshit.
Well, and then to what you just said, I'm pulling it up right now so I can speak from authority here. But Marche recently had an opportunity at a number one contendership for the national championship. In fact, he wrestled Chris Adonis in a non-title match on NWA USA episode 7 in the first season. And if he defeated Adonis, he was supposed to get a title shot. And again, we're talking about heel versus heel. It didn't make a lot of sense then. It makes even less sense now because obviously it feels like they're pushing Marche Rocket to a national title feud or program or something. They put him in that same position again, still can't get the job done. Maybe it is time for him to move on. Maybe they can put Scion in that position and have him go after Jack Stain. At least then you'd have somebody who's not connected to a tag team.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. Maybe they should just get rid of some of their talent. If they're not going to use it right, why don't they just get rid of some of those people that aren't being used? And maybe as they go away, they come back and learn a new hold. They could finally win some matches.
I mean, that's not far off either.
Yeah, we can't miss you if you won't go away.
True.
That's what I said about Nick Aldis, and people said I was the worst thing ever. Season 8, episode 2 of POWERRR kicks off with Matt Cardona backstage, your NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, with Kyle Davis. Cardona wishes the best of luck to his boys VSK and Mike Knox in their first tag team match on Power. Cardona issues a challenge to Tim Storm. I like where this is going. This is different. He says if he can beat Tim Storm, he'll talk to Billy to make sure that Tim gets a shot at the 10 pounds of gold. Remember, on the very first episode of the NWA Power, Tim Storm wrestled Nick Aldis, and if Tim Storm were to have won, he would have been the NWA World Champion. But because he lost, there was a contingency in that contract that prevented him from ever challenging for the World's Heavyweight Championship again. Now, at the time, I thought it was always you would never be able to challenge Nick Aldis for that World's Heavyweight Championship again. But I guess according to the booking today, he can never challenge for the world title, period. So if he will face Matt Cardona and win, Matt Cardona will go to Billy and make it a title match. Because Cardona does have that kind of stroke. He was able to get his boys in the tag team. He was able to get his wife in the women's championship match. So he has that kind of stroke. And this is all based on the fact that Tim Storm took exception to Matt Cardona, talking down to him during Crockett Cup when Tim Storm threw Matt Cardona back into the ring when Cardona was trying to, avoid actually wrestling Nick Aldis. And as soon as the camera goes to the announce table, Velvet Sky, Joe Galley, Tim Storm, a very impassioned, a very angry-looking Tim Storm accepted that challenge. How do you feel about that, Tim? How do you feel about Tim Storm getting one more shot at that 10 pounds of gold, or just even facing Matt Cardona?
I felt two things. One, Tim Storm is immediately angry. He's so angry he's gonna kick Matt Cardona's ass, and it was okay. I understand that there was a interaction, but there's been one. It didn't seem like it was blood feud material. But anyway, I like Tim Storm, but the other thing I thought was there's a lot of telegraphing going on here about what's going to happen before Cardona versus Aldis 2 or 3, I guess. I don't know. So, I mean, it was fine. Cardona's a good interview. It's quick. My girlfriend who doesn't watch wrestling watched the Crockett Cup with me, and she said, I think that it's amazing that Cardona and Chelsea Green's entire characters are made up of essentially being a walking temper tantrum. And it's refreshing, and she's right. It's good and it's fun. So yeah, I look forward to that match.
I ain't gonna lie, I thought you were gonna call him a walking tampon, so I'm glad you went with temper tantrum.
I mean, either one would work, right? What I did, where I will make the case for Tim Storm is that the locker room has not hidden their disdain for Matt Cardona, which the irony here is so just hitting me in the face, because if you go back into the Wayback Machine back to 2017, there was this really smug guy who had a lot of success elsewhere in a nationally recognized company who came to the NWA and challenged Tim Storm for that 10 pounds of gold. And that guy had zero experience in the NWA before and had very little experience leading up to their title match. They had the first title match in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. The second title match would be at Combat Zone Wrestling on December 9th, 2017, when Nick Aldis would win that World's Heavyweight Championship. And the irony just slaps me in the face every time I hear Aldis talk about somebody coming from another place to the NWA to take somebody's spot. I mean, Tim Storm was your world's heavyweight champion when Billy Corgan purchased the NWA. The guy he defeated for that 10 pounds of gold was Jack Stane. We never got a series of rematches because at the time Jack Stane started working with Ring of Honor and things just didn't work out. By the time Billy Corgan had purchased the NWA, Jack Stane was available. They didn't bring in Jack Stane. They didn't bring in any of the talents that were associated with the NWA. They brought in their own. And so now we have Aldis so outraged, and the locker room so outraged that this outsider would come to this company and take the 10 pounds of gold. And now they think they're the saviors of the NWA. This is exactly what Nick Aldis did when he got here. So the irony is definitely not wasted on me. I think it's very laughable about how, upset they are about this happening again. Sorry, that's me going off on my tirade, but Tim Storm, again, the locker room's not happy with Matt Cardona, and I can see where he's fired up to try to do something about it.
Well, look, I mean, we're talking about a company that bases itself exclusively on tradition, legacy, history. But that doesn't mean, that, well, look, to me, the antithesis of that is Cardona is a guy who comes in and says, this place sucks. There's no pyro. There's no screen. There's no entrance music. Like, this is terrible. I hated watching this as a kid. Like, studio wrestling. And, and they slapped the world title on him. Like, is there a more perfect foil for the entire NWA than Matt Cardona?
No,
like him or not?
Yeah, no, I agree. Go ahead, Jane.
I actually have a great Matt Cardona joke if you want to hear it.
Let's hear it.
Why is Matt Cardona like a tampon? Give up?
Yep.
Give up, stuck up bitches.
Oh, shit.
Hope I just
Please
popped.
everybody.
That won't be on my TikTok account later, I promise. So with that being said, Tim Storm accepts the match. And then we get our first match of the night with Maddie, no longer Redikowski, just Maddie, taking on Camille in a non-title match. Now, this was a little peculiar to me because when I first watched the match, I was thinking, why is this a non-title? No one's going to beat Camille. She's obviously the standard bearer of women's wrestling in the NWA. The face turn is totally inevitable at this point. The fans are literally standing for Camille to walk into the arena. And just make this a regular title match. Just load up that belt. Give her more defenses because Camille is definitely going to win this match. And then the match starts, and it's a little dicey at times. In fact, I would say Camille was in peril for the majority of the match, which is not a position that we normally see Camille in. Maddie's playing a lot of mind games in this match. She's definitely inside the head of Camille, blatantly using cheating in front of the referee, and you could see Camille getting frustrated, and it was really working to get in the head. The psychology of the match is that the bruiser is getting beaten by the smart girl, and it was very apropos, if you will. She starts targeting the arm of Camille. really making you think like, man, this is not looking good for Camille during this match. A lot of smart wrestling by Maddie Radikowski, excuse me, just Maddie. And she connects with what they call the reality kick, which was a scissor kick that would make Booker T proud. Maddie gets a 2 on the champion, and it was nearly 3. And I had to literally rewind the show several times because it sounded like 3. And each time I watched it, I thought it was 3 until the last time I could see where the referee, that first clap was him just hitting the mat to get down. Camille steals the victory with her spear. But this is the best that Maddie Radikowski, excuse me, Maddie just Maddie, looked since joining the NWA. And I want to see more of this. I thought she looked really good in this match, and I thought that for the first time in a long time, Camille looked like she was in some trouble there. What did you think, Tim?
Pretty much what you did. I'm not sure that I completely understood the purpose of having her dominate the one wrestler in the NWA who dominates in their division. Like, above all others, Camille is the dominant force in her division. And Maddie came out, terrible ring gear, by the way.
Yeah, awful, just the worst.
Awful ring gear. But man, she can go. She can wrestle. Like you said, Camille's in peril from the get-go. I think she has her for the most of the match, if not almost all of the match. Hits the finisher on her, and then loses to the shoulder tackle, which I absolutely despise as a finisher. So, I didn't. Maybe you guys have a different opinion or can educate me. I didn't see the point of making her look that strong on a non-title match where she's facing the champion out of nowhere. But great match overall. I mean, it was interesting to see that dynamic. You haven't seen it before with Camille.
First, want to address what would Luthez do? Said bad move dropping her beautiful Polish name, considering the NWA's growing presence there. Once I learned how to say Radikowski, I love to say Radikowski.
It's a great name.
It's perfect, and so I agree. I think they should have kept that last name, but maybe it was just too long for the graphics department, or maybe the announcers couldn't say it.
You can say Legursky.
They do say Legursky. You're correct. Dave Scooby says Cardona ate breakfast by himself or with Knox every morning at the hotel. No other NWA talent sat near him at all. I don't think, like I said, Cardona is an interesting dude, and if that is legit, like the locker room really doesn't like him, too effing bad. He's got people talking about your brand. He's got a spotlight. Cody Rhodes did the same thing. Lean into it. Enjoy it while you have it, because I think that's a good move for the NWA. Getting back to this match, I agree. I don't understand why you would make Radikowski look so good in this match unless you're building to something down the road. And if it's going to be Maddie versus Camille at the next pay-per-view, then you're planting the seeds, and maybe that makes sense. But I still feel like, I know that Natalia Markova looked to be like that next girl in line, next woman in line, and that didn't come to fruition. I feel like they might put Chelsea Green back in the match with Camille again, which I don't really want to see. So I don't know what it's building up to, but I was happy to see Maddie look good in this match. And it's not bad that Camille looked weak. You got to remember, Camille's held that title for almost a year now, and she's been very, very decisive in her victories. And if someone can find like a chink in the armor, whatever the expression is, let someone expose it. Let her look weak in order for her to build herself up even further. Jaden, based on what we said, what do you think?
It reminds me of how they build a monster up to be completely unbeatable until he's beaten, and then everybody beats him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they're trying for, because I guess nobody buys any challenger for Camille. So maybe if they show every once in a while she can be put into peril, that maybe somebody has a chance to beat her. I don't know. I never watched Mike Tyson because I thought somebody was going to beat him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think if you're going to push Camille as unbeatable and that much of a threat, then she shouldn't be doing this at all. But I think that's probably why they did it, to make her look like she was beatable, so that maybe they could build interest in a future challenger. Because honestly, without bringing in some big name women wrestlers, if there are any even available, who is going to look like a serious threat against Camille? Maybe Mickie James.
Well, so they have Markova on the roster, and I the thing is that roster they've always mentioned is kind of like a carousel that people come on and come off. So you'll see talent come and go a lot. We saw Lady Frost, who I thought was the most polished athlete in the NWA, and she got signed by Impact as soon as it had an opportunity. So when you have someone like Natalia Markova, who's a very polished athlete as well, looked very good in the ring. She wasn't at these tapings as far as I know, and it sounds like she might have been injured. So then, is Kylie Ray that person? Well, they already did that. Is Melina that person? Well, they already did that too. So I think presenting somebody new is a smart thing to do. And I know that somebody like Genocide, I'm sure they have some long-term plans for her because she's just so damn good too. And Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to see Genocide versus Camille at some point down the road. What about Kylie Ray? I don't know her status right now, but because she's in and out with different reasons. But she's often been portrayed in the NWA as like, oh my God, is she going to steal this match? Or, she stole another one over a big name.
Yeah.
And she's got a fun character that freaks out when things go bonzo, and maybe she's would have been a better choice. I don't know.
And that's it too. Are we saving them for pay-per-views? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. And that, again, that's, we're trying to get inside the head of Billy Corgan, which I don't think is an easy thing to do. And his style of wrestling seems to be a blend of, the Chicago, the olden Chicago style of wrestling of yesteryear, blended with a high dose of Impact Wrestling and some of the carny WWF stuff. So where he's at for sure, I don't really know, but we'll see. We'll see. The fact of the matter is, it was a good match.
Yeah. What would Luthez do? Said Ray's not the answer. And I would agree on paper she's not. But at the second night of the Crockett Cup pay-per-view, that women's match was, for my money, the best match of the night. And there was an actual moment where I sat forward and said out loud, oh my God, is Smiley Kylie going to take this?
Was it the super kick?
Yeah. And I was like, is she actually going to win this? And I was excited for that moment.
So my daughter, who's 17 years old, who's been to many wrestling shows with me, was there live at the Crockett Cup. And she tends to like the goofy characters. She loved the Fixers, and she loved Smiley Kylie Ray. And when that super kick connected with Camille, and you saw Camille just fold up like an accordion, my jaw dropped, her jaw dropped, and we thought Kylie Ray was going to win that title. And I know that, that kind of goes beyond what the expectation was, that this was just a match for Camille to look good. But for that half a second, I thought we had a new champion. Yeah. Also, Luthez says, could Markova be collateral damage from the whole Ukraine issue? I mean, I don't think that Billy Corgan is that sensitive to what's happening around the world. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was using Tyrus when there was allegations against Tyrus. I think there was a lawsuit even still in the works at the time, and they still used Tyrus. They still stood by Tyrus. I just don't think that it's something that matters. I mean, he picked up Austin Aries, who said a lot of controversial things, have done a lot of controversial stuff. I don't think it matters to him. I think he's just trying to get the best talents available. I think whatever happened with Natalia Markova, I think it might have been an injury more so than anything else. And then one more thing Luthez said is just not a reliable person to put a title on. Sorry, talented, but true. And I think he's talking about Kylie Ray. And yeah, I mean, there is something to that. She has to prove that she's going to stick around. I mean, her history indicates otherwise, but she's also in a different situation now. So it's really hard especially with mental health. When we talk about the importance of mental health, Kylie Rae has definitely been up against it. And, we wish nothing but the best for her in terms of that. But, that does have to play a role in who you're going to put your titles on.
Yeah, no, I get the point now, Fez. That's actually a really good point now that you've clarified that.
And Dave Scooby said, no Melina at the taping, so she may be done with the NWA. I kind of thought she was done the minute she appeared at the Rumble, and I wouldn't be surprised if she appears back in the WWE in some capacity down the road, that's okay. Like, again, that carousel isn't meant to be a long-term thing. Nick Aldis will be with the NWA until he's done wrestling, in my opinion. But everyone else, I think they're going to come on that carousel for a ride, and we'll see how it takes them. We heard recently that Dango, Dirty Dango, is hanging up the boots. I don't know how legitimate that is, but he was at the Crockett Cup, and so far we haven't seen anything from him since. You've got Jay the God, who's been around, but I don't know for how much longer we're going to have him. And it's not unlike that roster to keep moving, and that's okay. We haven't seen Slice Boogie in the NWA for a very long time. We probably won't. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Next, we get backstage with May Valentine and the Pope. God, I love the Pope. Brightest spot in the NWA for me. May acknowledges that the Pope has this golden ticket from the Championship Series. And she asked if the Pope was happy with the way Cardona won the title or retained the title. And of course he wasn't. Nobody in the locker room is, because nobody likes Matt Cardona in the company. Pope made it sound like he is going to target Cardona, because he mentioned more than once that title, someone needs to take the title from Cardona, and I think he meant specifically himself. Then Pope, when May asked Pope about Trevor Murdoch, and his answer was a little interesting to me. He says Pope also wants Trevor not to forget the people who stood by him when he was champion and who are still standing by him now. And it just made me think, like, are we going to get a Pope Trevor Murdoch feud? What do you think about this one, Tim?
Yeah, go ahead, Jaden. After you.
All right. I like Pope. I like Murdoch, so I wouldn't mind them feuding with each other. I think it just delays Pope getting a shot at the title. So if they have a bunch of matches set up for Cardona to put it over, and then Pope beats a bunch of people and gets a number one contendership and then wins the title, I like it. If it's just so they can throw a bunch of spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks, then I'm a little less of a fan. But again, I do like Pope. I think he's a bright spot. Same thing for Murdoch, except for his bad booking of his being champion.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a way they both can come out looking better.
Yeah, I agree. It gave me some hope from you could smell the Aldis Cardona rematch, and that makes me sigh, because I worry about the idea of Nick Aldis becoming world champion again. I have nothing against Nick Aldis. He's what'd you call him, a 5 points wrestler?
I call him a 5-tool athlete.
There you go. And he is, but I don't need him to hold the 10 pounds of gold, at least for the foreseeable future. And if this interview and this statement by Pope is some booking for down the road and isn't just throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, like Jaden says, then great, because that means maybe we're seeing Cardona Pope down the road after all this. That makes me happy, because I want Pope to be world's heavyweight champion.
There was a T-shirt that was made up right before the 73rd anniversary show. That was made by what was the company's name? I can't remember now. Dream Match something or other, and on the shirt they depicted your world's heavyweight champion being challenged by the television champion. I have it right here. Yeah. And that was the match that I wanted at the 73rd anniversary show, and we didn't get it, and that's okay, because we could still get it down the road. But I think, to your point, Aldis does not need the title at this point. But if he's chasing the title, I think that is good for business. And if he does not win the title, I think that's good for business. Because if you put the belt on the Pope, would be like the first African American NWA World Champion since Ron the Truth Killings, like 20 years ago. I think that's a huge bonus for a lot of wrestling fans. I think it would show that the NWA is all inclusive, and I think it would show that number one, that hard work pays off, but two, like the Pope is a guy who literally made that TV title, this one right here, made it seem relevant because no offense to Zicky Dice, he never had a chance to elevate the title. No offense to Ricky Starks, he had no chance to elevate the title, but the Pope made that title meaningful. When you had Chris Adonis holding the national title and doing absolutely nothing with it, and you had the Pope defending that title every single week, he brought legitimacy to that belt. I feel like the Pope is the right guy to be the guy to take the belt off of Matt Cardona. And, if I'm booking it, if anyone's listening, that's what you do. You let Aldis chase, but you never give him the taste.
I'm with you.
I'm rhyming over here. I'm rhyming. Getting to the next spot, we're up against Rodney Mack with Magic Jake Dumas. Now, this match, I get that they're trying to do something with Jake Dumas. The NWA sees something in him. Look, the gimmick is whatever. He's got an interesting look. I'll give you that. He's not awful in the ring, but he's far from what I would call a five-tool athlete. And he's facing off of somebody that you better be a five-tool athlete if you're stepping in the ring with. And I'm talking about Rodney Mack. Jake Dumas refuses to take off the hat, and Mack is just staring daggers at this guy. Dumas lights up the cigarette and blows smoke in Mack's face. And one of the most cringiest things I've seen in the NWA is Mack takes that cigarette, puts it out on his tongue, and then breaks it up in his hand, which would kind of foreshadow what was happening later. All of this heat, all this cheap heat, just so he could get a cheap shot at he being Jake Dumas getting a cheap shot on Rodney Mack. This match is just basically Rodney Mack beating the crap out of Jake Dumas until there's an opportunity for Dumas to break up a second cigarette into his hand and blow the remnants into the eyes of Rodney Mack, counting for a roll-up and a 3 count, ending the match. This is lame. This is the kind of shit I don't need to see on my TV. I want to like Jake Dumas, but honestly, stuff like this is not going to do it for me. And you got a guy like Rodney Mack who is a beast. Send him after Jack Stane. What did you think about Jane? Did you see this one? What did you think?
I didn't, but it sounds like Billy Corgan's trying to recreate the Sandman in ECW. And there was only one Sandman, thank goodness for wrestling. And nobody else should be even attempting anything like that. And honestly, how are you supposed to say you're a serious athlete when you're smoking in the ring like it's an absolute? This ain't the 1960s when they used to do that. Nowadays, people know that that's something that could hurt your performance, and it just takes away from the sport feel and puts more in the sports entertainment.
Yeah, Mr. Tim.
When I first saw the cigarette, all I could think of was Paul White as the Giant. You remember that period in WCW? He used to walk to the ring with the smoke.
Yeah.
I used to smoke for a very long time, and it's the dumbest thing I could imagine. Seeing on television, any company with its worth its weight just wouldn't be promoting it right now. But then you get to that point where Rodney takes it and puts it out on his tongue because he's a 51-year-old badass with MMA experience who's going to wipe the floor with you, and then proceeds to lose in the dumbest finish I can remember NWA having it, at least in a long, long time. What is it about loose tobacco in the hand that blinds you when you blow it into the eyes? I didn't quite get that. He's selling it all over the place because he has to. He's physically just a monster. Like you say, go against Jack Stane. He's wrestling a guy who wrestles with his shirt on. And he gets rolled up. And look, this is nobody's fault, but that wasn't even a 3 count. His shoulder was up. But, but regardless, it was a terrible ending.
It's not. it's not what I want for Rodney Mack for sure. And you made my points for me. The dude is just a beast, and he deserves better than this.
Yeah.
And this kind of stuff, like what Jaden said, this is what stops me from being all in the NWA. And I've been covering this business, this company, since 2007, 2006. Actually, I was covering what they were doing locally for SoCal Uncensored. So I've been covering this promotion for 16 years. And, it's always that constant 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
Give me a good wrestling show. This kind of shit, leave off. That's a dark match. I don't know.
Right now, I wish somebody would go up to Billy Corgan and Will Smith them to knock some sense into them.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for the Will Smith, and I knew we were going to get it at some point. And there it is. So next up, we go to the Ill Begotten versus the Cardonas. And this was another one of those sports entertainment moments because you have 3 brothers of the Ill Begotten. They kicked out Yuma, and no Danny Deals, which was weird because he's kind of been their manager as of late. So you have Jeremiah Plunkett, who, friend of the show, he's going to be on here at some point. I love JP. I won't have anyone say anything negative about Jeremiah Plunkett. Alex Taylor and Rush Freeman all in the ring, ready to go. And they're discussing who's gonna step in with VSK and VSK and Mike Knox. VSK takes it upon himself to eliminate the small guy, Alex Taylor, which sets up the match. Freeman and Plunkett versus VSK and Knox. And that's just a weird way to start a match to begin with. And the referee was cool with it. All right, ring the bell. We're good. We got 2 men in, 2 men out. Let's go. Even after that, though, we had Plunkett in the match for the majority of the time, taking most of the punishment. I like JP. I'm always going to say nice things about Jeremiah Plunkett. Got to meet him on Saturday after the Crockett Cup night 1. Great dude. I can't wait to have him on so we could talk some old Tennessee stories from the early 2000s. He's the one that's taking the brunt of the punishment. They get the hot tag to Rush Freeman, and you're like, all right, Freeman's going to get in there and do some stuff. His hot tag was very short lasting. Freeman eventually knocks down, easy for me to say. Then goes to, doesn't go for the pin right away. Then for whatever reason decides to hit the ropes where VSK gets him a knee in the back. We get the finisher for Knox and then the finisher from VSK, and that's it. That's the 1, 2, 3. The Cardonas go over. I didn't really like this match, and I'm a Jeremiah Plunkett fan. I would like to see them do something more with him than that. I understand that he's going to be that guy now for the NWA, and that's okay because you need that guy. But just the way that they booked this match didn't make a lot of sense to me, and I didn't like it. Tim, what did you think?
Yeah, I love Punky. He's great on social media too, very engaging. But if they're going to put him in a spot where he's kind of the leader of the job squad in the NWA, hey, fantastic. That's good. He's a coach and a teacher and a mentor by trade and personality. So that's great. But from everything about this match was unnecessary.
Exactly.
Like they just right off the bat, let's just VSK just punks Alex Taylor over the top rope, like you said. So now it's chosen.
And the thing about that is it wasn't even Knox. It wasn't the big guy. VSK was literally the smallest guy in the ring, and he's the one calling the shots.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to mention earlier, but because it really came up to this now, but I'd been saying, online, hey, I don't mind Velvet Sky. She's give her a chance to improve. Like Mae Valentine got a chance to improve. And all throughout this particular show, my disdain was starting to grow. And during this match, when she started saying, these guys disgust me, I can't take it anymore, they weren't even cheating. They were just beating up the Ill Begotten and winning with an amazing frog splash by VSK, by the way. I wish that they would do something with Rush Freeman down the road. Yeah. I think there's something there and get him maybe out of this particular situation. But Velvet kind of put the terrible icing on the terrible cake for me with her, I can't stand the C word, the Cardona word, I think I'm really done with her now.
What makes it worse is like she goes, Joe, Tim, I just have to say this.
Yeah.
You've been saying stuff like that for months and didn't really give anyone any warning. I don't know why you did it this time.
Yeah.
Jaden, from what we said, what do you think about this? If you can form an opinion based on our opinion.
About Velvet Sky, she kind of needs to be off commentary too, but make her manager. And why she's so disgusted? She did much worse as part of the Beautiful People.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, there was more nasty stuff done by her and Angelina and Madison Rain and the Von Erich, Lacey Von Erich.
I like Lacey.
Can't imagine why. There's two reasons why you like her, huh?
Because she's a Von Erich and because she can wrestle, kind of.
Oh, I was going to say because she has blonde hair and blue eyes, but okay.
Sure.
That's kind of your niche there. If she had pink hair, you'd really be in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
I wonder why. You bring up a good point, and it's kind of a shame that Dirty Dango is stepping away from the ring, because I feel like the chemistry between how she is on commentary with Dango and Jay the God, that maybe she would have been a good manager for them if they really wanted to pursue them as a tag team, a serious tag team. And that would have been an excellent way to write her out of the booth. They still haven't really figured out a good way to get rid of her, and I think that's why she's still there, at least in my humble opinion.
I always found the best way to get rid of somebody is telling them they're fired, but I mean, that's just me.
Or you tell them that you love them.
No, that's when they walk away. They run away.
Oh, self-deprecation is my favorite form of comedy.
Yeah, I love you, Jay, by the way.
Oh.
When you leaving?
Can we go back to Lacey Von Erich?
Yeah. Anytime. Yeah. Always and forever.
Yeah.
But I just want to know if Jay's drinking the same thing Lacey Von Erich's been drinking.
What's she drinking?
I don't know, but if you ever seen some of her podcasts, some of her walking around with it,
crazy juice.
Yeah, some of that crazy juice.
She has a podcast?
Yeah, or at least a blog or something like that. She was walking around at conventions saying a bunch of stupid stuff, and there was something more in that cup than water.
Mommy soda, probably. Well, that takes us. First of all, I didn't know Lacey Von Erich had any kind of podcast or blog or anything. I know she was involved with SWE Fury right before they shut the doors, and things are getting wild in Texas. And I don't know what's happening, but we know that the World Class Revolution, or whatever it's called, who has partnered with Reality Wrestling, that kind of assumed that some of the talents and the TV time that SWE Fury had, canceled all their shows WrestleMania weekend. So I don't know what's happening in Texas. I certainly don't know what's happening with Lacey Von Erich. I do know that if you went to Iconic Heroes of Wrestling Excellence at the Ridgela Theater in Fort Worth, Texas, where the West begins, you probably had a good time. And I think their show is still going on as we speak. So, see, Tim, a lot of times I'm just going to bring stuff around again that doesn't make any sense, because sometimes it's just an audience for me. I make myself laugh.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyways,
it's called popping himself, and he's very good at it.
I'm a legend at popping myself. Next, we get Chris Adonis in the back with Kyle Davis. Of course, Kyle Davis, kind of recanting the words that Camille and Tom Latimer had about Adonis, saying that he was the weak link. And, it's kind of funny how Adonis was just like, whatever. Like, no hard feelings, pal. I get it. I thought that was kind of interesting. But basically, Adonis is happy to be a solo act again and is looking to regain that national championship. As to which I say, good luck, pal, because you got Jack Stain, who's your national champion now. And the other part of that, oh, the battery's dead. The other part that I want to think about on this one is, Chris Adonis is going to be out for some time, or at least that's what I was told. But then I saw recently that he's booked. He's looking for upcoming bookings. Jane, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about when a guy says, "Oh, I'm hurt," but they're still taking bookings? Jaden must be gone.
Tim, why did you ask yourself that question? You said Jay.
It was supposed to be Jaden, but I was kind of angling myself weird, so I apologize.
That's okay. You know what? I like Adonis as a wrestler. He's got some name value. He's got a great look to him. How is he the weak link when he's the only one who ever held singles gold out of the two between him and Latimer?
Yeah.
If anybody, Latimer is the only one who hasn't held any singles championships.
This is true.
Maybe he's the weak link.
He hasn't held any gold since Royce Isaacs left the NWA.
Yeah, Royce Isaac carried him.
What did you think about the promo, Tim?
It happened. I mean, there's nothing else to say about it. He's like, hey, I'm on my own now, and I want my national title back. I don't see how that's going to happen either.
Yeah, that's 100% for sure. Then that brings us to the next match, which is, let's be honest, this is a tune-up match. This is let's get Nick Aldis on TV match. If you're gonna put the guy in the ring, put him against somebody who again is competitive. Give me Mims, give me Jordan Clearwater, give me somebody on the show who I think could have a good match with Nick Aldis.
You're forgetting one thing before this, though.
What did I forget?
Scion is being interviewed by May.
Yeah, I must have skipped that because I don't have that in my notes. So tell me about Scion and May.
The Scion, who was interesting for. I'm sure he's a great guy. I feel so bad saying this, but he was interesting for about a cup of coffee to me. He's on TV and he's like, you know what I learned from Tyrus? I learned how to get beaten and live with it and learn and grow. Like, it's the same thing he does like all the time. Like, thank you for teaching me these lessons. And yes, I am going to slam you, Tyrus, and I'm going to take your TV title. And I keep thinking, are we not done with the whole Scion, Tyrus, Austin thing? Is this still going on? But the best part of this, the part that you would have loved, Jay, is that he's talking and Taryn Terrell comes onto the screen and she's just like, hi.
I love her.
She can do no wrong. As far as I'm concerned, she is amazing on the screen. The funniest thing was Scion just like looks at her, just shakes his head like, I can't handle this, and walks off. It was hilarious. And she comes on and just, does some kind of that mindless, I don't know what to call her character, but where she doesn't quite realize that her tag team is gone and now she has to go figure out what it is she's going to do. But
I will echo that sentiment. Taryn Terrell can do no wrong. I know she's a bit crazy too, but I like her. More of her on my TV, and I think she's good at what she does in the NWA. And all kidding aside, yes, she's absolutely stunning, but as a character, she just knows what she's doing, and it's vapid, it's stupid, but every time it makes me chuckle. And maybe they're playing up to my 14-year-old mentality, but I just think she's a perfect addition to the roster. Whether she's going to be managing Genocide, Paola Blaze, or The End, or Mecha Wolf and Bestia, just more of her on my TV. I think she's a good fit for the NWA, and I think she does her job well. Jaden,
hey Jay, I think you have a type.
Oh, I definitely have a type. Do you have anything nice you want to say about Taryn Terrell, or I can mute you? I have a mute button.
I'm glad I missed a segment. Does that count? I don't know.
Look. And then going back to Scion too, real quick, because I do want to say this. I understand what the idea is. They're trying to make their own character. They're trying to make it brooding, and he's like literally like he's Billy Corgan if Billy Corgan was a pro wrestler. That's what it is. And that just hit right now. He's brooding, and I'm gonna learn my lessons, and I'm gonna take these beatings, and I'm gonna be better. This is Billy Corgan if Billy Corgan was a pro wrestler. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, a bad thing, or indifferent, but I feel like Scion isn't going anywhere. We're going to see more of him, and they'll find different ways to put him in matches and try to make him meaningful. He probably will be the guy to end up beating Tyrus for the TV title, but I feel like the NWA should read the room and say, like, hey, look, this isn't working. Let's revamp it. Let's change it. Let's give him a manager. Hell, put him with Taryn Terrell. That might actually make him more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And And this is coming from somebody who, again, I want to like the whole idea of Sion. I like the masked wrestler. He's not bad in the ring. He's not the best, but he's not bad. He had a really good match with Anthony Mayweather during the championship series. And I feel like there's a ton of potential for him. It's just, they're not there right now.
Who was Taryn's coach partner when they did that team's? I don't remember what it's called, but when they broke into
the
different
championship
groups,
series, she
was
was
like Velvet and Pope and Taryn and somebody else, and they played amazingly off each other. And I'm blanking now, but like to your point, that might make Sion more interesting.
Let me see if I can figure that out, because
someone in the chat will know.
You know what also might make Sion more interesting? Lots and lots of alcohol.
Of course, I'm all right with that. Yeah, I'm not seeing it right up it's not kicking my screen in. Taryn Terrell. So I know it was Melina and Aldous, and they hated each other.
Right.
I know it was Pope and
Velvet.
It was Idol and Camille. Gosh, who was the fourth person?
Anyway, I'll look it up. You run the show.
Fair enough. All right, so next up we get Aldous versus Deontay Marshall. And like I was saying before, this was just a tune-up match for Aldous. Nothing more, nothing less. I wish they'd have given him a better opponent. I don't mind seeing Aldous go out there and kick somebody's ass. I don't. Like I said, he's a 5-tool athlete. He's great at what he does. But give him a meaningful match. You could do that. You could put Mims in there. You could put Clearwater in. It's like Bubba Ray Dudley says on Busted Open Radio. Sometimes you don't go over, but you can get over. And this wasn't a bit an opportunity for somebody to get over by, putting over Nick Aldis. And they just didn't manage to do that in this one. Again, I feel like this is a blown opportunity. The wrestling wasn't bad, but again, like, what story are we trying to tell here? What, Aldis coming out and beating a nobody, what does that do for anybody?
Get some on television, get some exposure. I can understand why he called you a ham sandwich jabroni. He called him a 5-time tool. But
a 5-star tool. A 5-tool athlete. That's what I meant to say.
And was it Aaron Stevens, according to Dave Scooby?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
That makes total and again, that was a perfect partnership between the two. Go ahead, Jade. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. I don't remember what I was talking about, other than calling you a tool. No, honestly, Aldis beating anybody, Aldis needs to be on TV every once in a while, but not overly exposed on TV.
Sure.
This might have been actually a good thing. It got him out there so he was remembered, but not necessarily out there cutting 94-hour promos and taking up all of the spotlight from the NWA. So I'm less of an opponent to him being in a squash match.
That's fair. Tim, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm the same. It just set up a podium time for him to, which may have even lasted as long as the match. Just to go out there and say, Cardona, I'm angry and I'm coming back for you. See you soon. The end.
What I will say is this: the way that they've been building up this. I know it's happening this weekend. If you guys are, for those of you that watch Impact as well as the NWA, there's been this kind of marriage of teamwork between the Impact and NWA. You've got Matt Cardona, who's your NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. When he came in, he was feuding with Trevor Murdoch. Like, that was his target. He wanted the world title. And Aldis stood by, wasn't part of it. And then in Impact, you had Mickie James, who was the Women's World Champion, teaming with Chelsea Green, who we all know is Cardona's wife.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing big here, nothing to call home about. But the same weekend that Aldis finally gets a shot at Cardona, and Chelsea Green gets involved in the match, and Mickie James gets involved with the match. On the flip side, on Impact, they taped it a few days before. Chelsea Green churns on Mickie James. So I'm not saying that this is an NWA storyline, but it kind of spilled over on both sides. And then this weekend they're doing, they're calling it the multiverse multi-card or something like that. And they're trying to paint it as multiple promotions fighting against Impact wrestlers. And in this particular spot, they're putting Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona, who they recognize as Impact wrestlers, taking on the NWA's Nick Aldis and Mickie James. And it's kind of funny because Cardona's your NWA World Champion. If anything, he should maybe have that banner over his head more than Nick Aldis. And it's the first time Aldis has been in an Impact ring since leaving the company back in 2016 or 2015, whenever it was. And so this amalgamation of a storyline that's in two separate companies just kind of blended so well together. I will give credit where it's due. I think that was such a smart thing to do, and I'm glad that they're doing that match this weekend. It almost makes me want to buy the Impact pay-per-view. Tim, did you know about any of this, or have you heard of any of that?
I have not, and I still don't want to buy an Impact pay-per-view.
Fair enough. Jaden, what do you think about that?
I remember myself and DK were talking about it. I think the NWA brought the horse to the water, but the Impact gets it to drink, and I think that's kind of unfair. The NWA needs more of the publicity of the Impact. I don't know. I guess they both need some kind of notoriety and something to get them going. But I'd rather have seen it in the NWA, especially because it was happening with like a 2 or 3 week notice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now it's like they announced it like a couple days before the event was even going to happen, that it's all of a sudden there. I don't know. I guess it's good for Impact because it gives them something to work with. Aldis and Mickey James Aldis are talented, and so are Cardona and
Chelsea.
I keep wanting to call her other gimmick, but yeah, I think that's a good match. I think that's a good match. It's something I wish it could happen somewhere where I could see it, because I'm not going to watch the Impact pay-per-view either. Maybe it'll show up online and I can watch on YouTube. And that's about as much effort I'll put into it. But it's a match that seems interesting.
I think it's a matchup that might play out in the NWA as well, or with an NWA partner. Matt Cardona is going to Australia in the summer. He's going. There's talk about doing an NWA themed event in Poland because of how Chris Adonis has gotten over, how Nick Aldis has gotten over. I mean, these are perfect opportunities to have those couples wrestle each other in non-title matches, but make it seem significant and meaningful out of the country or even in the country. We have another Power Surge that was announced this for next month. So maybe that's something we'll see at that show. I could see this happening more than just an Impact, and it's certainly a storyline that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. So with that, that brings us to the main event of the night. We got the Briscoes in the announce booth with Joe Galli. And those two dudes are so insightful. I was so happy to have those guys on commentary. And they were there because your World Tag Team Champions, La Rebellion, who will be defending those titles all weekend long and are scheduled to defend the titles in the United Kingdom in June, will be defending those titles against the End, Paro and Odinson. Now, we've talked about it at length on this show that Odinson seems to be a breakout star for the NWA. And there seems like there's so much unrealized potential with this guy. And as much as I've said in the past that I like Paro and I want to see Paro succeed, I just can't get behind the End anymore. The End is a tag team that have probably wrestled La Rebellion the most since being in the NWA. And this matchup wasn't as bad as I've seen Paro at some points. But I feel like this guy, like I don't feel like he's ring ready. And, they start the match off where Paro and Odinson get the early advantage. They even stack the champions, and they do the slam where Odinson takes Paro and slams him on top of him. And that should have ended the match for most wrestlers. But, you're talking about Bestia 666 and Mecha Wolf. The End do a good job of keeping the ring separated. They segregate Bestia. They keep them on their side. And it sounds like the Briscoes are impressed by both tag teams. They're doing a great job of putting both Mecha Wolf and Bestia over, and they're doing a good job of putting Paro and Odinson over. And it's pretty cool to hear. Like, they're the Ring of Honor tag team champions. They're not slouches. They're not nobodies. They're one of the most prolific tag teams in wrestling. And they're saying, hey, these guys look pretty good. Oh, that's a great move. Hey, look at that. At one point, I'm not sure if it was Mark or Jay, he says, man, Europeans are coming from everywhere with that man, because Odinson was literally just connecting with European after European uppercut. It was a lot of fun. The Briscoes, I really felt really good in the ring. Bestia finally makes that hot tag to Mecha Wolf, and he's like a house on fire. This reminded me of the old, Ricky Morton finally tags in Robert Gibson, and things are just going crazy. There was a spot where Mecha Wolf tossed Odinson into the corner, and Mecha Wolf dropped down to give a boost for Beastia to run in like the Hardy Boys do. And when Beastia dropped down, when Mecha Wolf dropped down, Beastia was running in, and then Odinson used Mecha Wolf as that springboard, and it connected with just this beautiful flying uppercut on Beastia. I thought that would have ended the match. Obviously it didn't, because we still have the tag team champions are La Rebellion, and the champs regained control quickly, and they finished the match with Mecha Wolf's 450 splash. Now, he used to be known as Mecha Wolf 450, so it's kind of fun to see him use that 450 splash again. And then immediately following the match, La Rebellion, who are holding the tag titles, point out the Briscoes. A war of words, explode. The Briscoes say they want the belts. They keep saying, you're talking crazy. And if the Briscoes say you're talking crazy, you know that they're onto something there. And I don't know who said it, but one of the Briscoes said, that man is not concerned for his own well-being. Just stuff like that popped me. I thought it was great. I loved it. This was the main event that I was happy to have. This was a tag team match that was good for La Rebellion, but it sets up that tag team match between the Ring of Honor's tag team champions, the Briscoes, and the NWA World Tag Team Champions in La Rebellion. I can't say enough good things about it. I thought the match was good. There's a few things that I didn't like about Paro, but Odinson is just so damn good that I don't really worry about Paro. I'm just worried about what Odinson's going to do. Tim, what did you think about this one?
Well, I didn't love it as much as you did, but it's because of Paro, and like you, I want him to succeed as well. He's got a great look. He's got a great, character, and he's got to be 60 pounds overweight right now. It doesn't feel like he's got that feel like Tyrus to me now, where like he doesn't want to get knocked down because he knows he'll have to get back up, and that's going to be a while. And you said it perfectly. He doesn't look ring ready, and it's not just his shape. It's, there were two spots that just took away from the whole match to me. One is, I think it's Bestia trying to do a Hurricane Rana, like pulling him over the top rope to the floor.
Yeah.
And so Bestia just went on his own, and it looked terrible. Like man, come on. And there was another one that just happened in the corner where like you can hear Joe Galli trying to cover it. And he just looks terrible when he's in there. He's blown up. You could just see that he didn't have any gas left by the end. But any chance to watch La Rebellion is great. I think the most important thing in this match is the Briscoes are right there in the arena. It looks, whether or not they're staying, it looks like they're here for now. And if you ask the fans who are in some kind of the know, which honestly I believe to be most fans, you're gonna get who's the best tag team in the world. You're gonna get a lot of percentage saying it's the Briscoes, and to feature them like they did in the Crockett Cup, the right team won there. To put them on commentary, I'm laughing at Lou says. To put them on commentary and to set up this match with as much time for them as they got to be on every show, wrestling all the time, talking all the time. Listen, if you just count Jim Cornette's followers alone, and Cornette saying the best tag team in professional wrestling are the Briscoes, it's not even FTR anymore. That's got to be worth a look from a few thousand fans towards the NWA. So I hope that, and I'm sure they will be featured as much as we want them to be.
Jane, what do you think?
I was a fan of the end. I've been pushing them for a long time, but that was the All Japan Pro Wrestling, the end.
Yeah.
Paro hasn't looked like that since the pandemic ended. Again, maybe his husband cooks too well. But I I was a big fan of the tag team, and now I just want them to. It's finally the NWA has a reason they should break up a tag team, and they're not going. They're not. Every other tag team in the world they break up, but the one that really where the breakout star is being held back by his tag team partner, and they should break up. They're not. And also, how many times have the End got a championship match? Like 64 times.
Yeah, no, they've had more than their fair share.
They should just finally break it up. Billy, you love breaking up tag teams. I think you're doing this on purpose now. Break up the End, maybe send Paro to the Pritchard Academy to have him get him back into ring shape. Bring him back in, feud with him later, maybe make a singles wrestler out of him. Because when he was a singles wrestler early in the NWA, he was looking good. It's just
Paro,
now,
right? Yeah,
Paro.
Like when he came in, because remember he came in by himself. Like he was at the 70th anniversary show for the national title, and he was in that same series, I think, with I want to say Willie Mack and Jay Bradley, or maybe I'm mixing it up. But he looked great, and that was 4 years ago, and I get it. But when they came in the first time after, during the pandemic, when the NWA came back after that pause, they pushed him as a singles wrestler. And I had these big delusions of grandeur. Like, this dude could be like the next Vader. If they push him right and they give him the right manager and just let him go out there, like he could be like a Vader style of wrestler. But since then, I just feel like he's gotten bigger and bigger. He's gotten less and less agile,
athletic.
in the ring.
Yeah. So the Vader is more like Mabel.
That's sadly the honest truth. Sadly, you are correct. He didn't look as good as he did, and it's a shame because I think he has potential. I do, and for whatever reason, if it's too many big gay FE brunches, if it's too much, dinner with his husband, if it's just too many donuts, whatever it is, you're hurting yourself, man, because you have a ton of potential. And I want to root for Paro. I want to cheer for Paro. I got to meet Paro at the 70th anniversary show, and I thought the world of him. I want that guy to succeed, but it just right now, I don't feel good about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really all there is to say about it.
And then for just so you guys know, they've had 2 opportunities at the World Tag Titles, both of them against La Rebellion, but they have been in multiple number 1 contendership matches. They wrestled Stevens and Kratos and won. They defeated Scion and Jordan Clearwater for another number 1 contender spot. And then the War Kings defeated them to get a number 1 contender spot. But yeah. That's it. Only 2 times, but it feels like more. I do agree.
Maybe you guys might have some more perspective on this. I kind of posed a question yesterday or today in one of the chats, I think on Discord, about maybe one of the reasons that they don't break up the End and push Odinson, who is fantastic, is because he physically looks like Anthony Mayweather. Like they got the same hair, same height, same build.
Yeah.
Is that ever a thing? Like, oh, we're not gonna do that because they look too similar. They are too similar.
I honestly believe the reason why they haven't broken up the End is because the End isn't up for it. And I don't know. I don't know Odinson and I don't know Paro. Like I said, I met him, but I wouldn't. He probably doesn't even remember me. I feel like they just both feel like they're more comfortable being single or tag teams as opposed to singles. Whereas I think, man, when you look at the NWA and that TV title, I mean, I'd love to see Odinson as your TV champion and just running around the ring, throwing European uppercuts everywhere. That would be amazing. And I feel like he's really, really good. But there might be something to that because Mayweather definitely has a look that's akin to Odinson. It's hard to say, but I mean, the WWE won't allow a wrestler to have the same name as another wrestler. Maybe the NWA doesn't want 2 guys looking like each other.
Yeah, but isn't Mayweather on the injured reserve and is taking himself away from the spotlight and not wrestling as much? Give that spotlight to Odinson then.
Yeah, Mayweather just recently, he won the national title at the By Any Means Necessary in Oak Grove, Kentucky. and then lost the title in his first title defense against Jack Stain. Second title defense really against Jack Stain, and then I don't know if he was written out of story or if he actually was legitimately hurt. I don't know that for certain, but I imagine there will be some sort of comeuppance for Jack Stain. I don't think the NWA will let him let him just run wild. The way he beat Anthony Mayweather, I don't think they're going to give him carte blanche just to ride off into the sunset. I think there's going to be some comeuppance for Jax at some point.
Since we're tying the two together, the End and Jack Stain, am I crazy, or was there not a segment last season where Jack Stain's like, I'm with the End now, and then we never heard about that again?
So, yes, and we talked about it on this show, and it was the weirdest thing because you had the End, and this was right before they did the Team War. They were building up these 3-man tags. So you already had the Fixers with Colby Carino. Mm-hmm. You already had Austin Idol Mania Sports Management with Marche Black G's or Marche Clearwater and Tyrus. You could really do it either way. And so they were building up these teams, and they did this promo with Jax and Paro and Odinson. And you're like, wow, holy crap, that looks fantastic. Those dudes look great. And then there was a moment where Jack Stain said something about Jazz, and Rodney Mack came out and punched him, knocked him down. And then when Team War started, Rodney Mack took Jack Stain's spot in Team War. So they never really explained it. They never really got into it. They just said, okay, we're putting Rodney Mack with Odinson and Paro. And during Team War, that was it.
Well, what Jack Stain made the problem is she should have kept Rodney Mack's wife's name out of his M and F and mouth.
That's two. So yeah, I mean, they didn't really explain it. It just kind of happened. And I mean, I'd like to live in a world to see what would have happened with Jack Stain and Odinson in the same, on the same team. But that never came to fruition.
Okay. Corrigan conspiracy.
Yeah, more of those conspiracy. Well, what we kind of asserted from what we saw was that, Rodney Mack kicked Jack Stain so hard that he literally took the spot from him with one punch. So that's kind of what we're going to go with, at least on this show. And speaking of which, that's going to do it for us this week. Tim, man, it was fun having you on the show, brother. What'd you think? Did you have a good time?
I had a great time. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
You're like, no, it sucked. You guys are awful.
Listen, before you sign off here, as you sign off, this bootleg, I think everybody knows who's probably here right now, but this bootleg, I have a bootleg 10 pounds of gold. Your choice, man. Once we reach 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube page for the Alliance Wrestling Podcast here. Oh, there's the belt. One of those two belts, there's a raffle. Jay and I will select a name randomly out of, once we're at 1,000, which is about 100. I think it's 100.
103.
103 away. We'll pull a name out. You can pick the title the world title that you want from my two bootleg replicas, and I'll mail it to you right to your house. So please spread the word, like and share this YouTube channel. We have Jay. You've really gotten a lot more. You've really gotten a lot more followers in the last couple of months, which has been great. We just got 103 more to go, and once we're there, we'll send that bad boy out.
And first of all, that's amazing of you to offer. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. That's it's really, really a cool thing to do. And that's why you're an honorary member of the Alliance. And why I invited you to be on the show tonight, not because you're offering to giving up your belt, but, you support this podcast. And, that means a lot to me. We've really been trying to plug away. Jaden's been with me since day one. He literally was the first person to ever call into my podcast back in 2008. Wow. And we used to be on Blog Talk Radio, and Jaden was part of that early, like, hey, man, I want to see you succeed. And so, this machine has been building, for 16 years to get to this point, or I guess 14 years, excuse me. So we're trying to get there. The YouTube channel started in 2018. We're 103 subscribers away from getting to 1,000. I promise you that we will keep producing same high quality content that you're getting right now with the camera going off.
Billy Corgan apparently doesn't want you to get those 103, so he's trying to cut the feed again.
Exactly. I've gone on pilgrimages to Tijuana to record Lucha Libre for our audience, for our fans. And that's stuff that I'll continue to do so. And any wrestling show that I go to, I try to put the content that we're seeing there up on the page as well. I'm putting up a new story shorts. That's what the new phrase is, the shorts. I'm putting up shorts daily. We're doing about 4 or 3 hours of video a week now on the channel. So, and it's all supporting the NWA, promoting that brand that we all care so much about. So we really do appreciate you guys checking us out every week. Tim, I do appreciate you being on the show. Again, plug the website one more time before we take off.
NWAGold.com needs to be updated. I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook at NWA Championships. Twitter's NWA Gold. If you search for me and find NWA Gold and Silver, that's not me. That's that guy with a jewelry store who wants to know why people still want to talk to him about title belts. So back off the silver, and you'll find me everywhere.
And then, Jaden, I know I can't make that graphic bigger, but we got a big event coming up in Glassboro, New Jersey. Your friends at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators have an event coming up. Ray Jazz defending the title against the man who never lost it, and Breaker Morant. Tell us about what's happening on that fateful night.
On Saturday night, April 23rd, at the MaxFit Sports Center, located at 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown rustic Glassboro, New Jersey, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators presents Marking Our Territory.
A great name.
We have the main event, the greatest dog championship match of all time, as the former champion, Breaker Morant, the man who never lost that championship, takes on current champion Ray Jazz. There will be one man. We'll leave that as the only champion in Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and it's going to be something you do not want to miss. Also signed is Patch going one-on-one against Jake Cal's favorite professional wrestler, Daredevil Dave Dahl. Fans of Dog will love the fact that Daredevil Dave Dahl is wrestling Patch, because he'll probably kill him. And that'll be, I don't think there's a lawyer or a judge in the country that will convict him for it either. You'll also see the World Wrestling Grand Prix Championship on the line as the WWGP champion, Chris Steeler, defends against Brolic Tyson. Oh, crap. I dropped my phone. Sorry.
Don't do that.
Sorry. I dropped my phone. It slipped out of my hand. Against crap. What was I saying now? Tyson. This is why you shouldn't drop your phone, people, ladies and gentlemen.
WWGP Championship match.
Yes. It's going to be
amazing. Just be there.
It's going to be Chris Steeler against Tyson Maddox. Man, this is what happens when you drop your phone. I wasn't even sure I was actually on for a while. Anyway, Tyson Maddox is an incredibly talented wrestler. He reminds me of Bad News Brown and Apollo Crews had a baby. So talented, and probably has one of the best drop kicks I've seen in a long time. So that match will be great. I can't wait to see it. You're going to be able to buy the entire seat for $20, but you're only going to need the edge.
Yeah.
Make sure also, I know that Dave Scooby lives in Baltimore. That's not that far of a ride to Glassboro, New Jersey.
I think
it'll be very well worth it to see Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. I know you have a friend who is a big dog fan. Am I right, Jay?
What are you talking about? No, I don't know what you mean. I'm lost. Dave Scooby said he would be at your show.
Well, good, because dog doesn't run shows; they run events.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yes.
So that's
and
gonna do.
I do know.
I might pop down for that one.
What was that?
I might pop down for that event.
You should. It's going to be well worth it.
Yeah,
South
man.
Jersey's #1 wrestling promotion for a reason, and that doesn't sound like the big deal until you realize there's about 3 million of them.
There really is. All right. Is that it?
Well, yeah, make sure you go to www.dogprowrestling.com, add all of the socials that are on there, and make sure you go to our YouTube page. I found out Dr. Zirconium just uploaded a bunch of matches, so you can actually see them up until the event. There's going to be different matches on different days, so you can see a bunch of stuff to get you excited about Dog Pro Wrestling. You'll also see 8 great matches and a ton of really spectacular pro wrestlers, plus Daredevil Dave Dahl will be in action.
I love it. All right, that's going to do it for us. Saturday night, April 23rd. Be there. And until next time, we'll see you guys at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we